Welcome to Kids Express.
Join us as we see kids express their love for Jesus
while developing their character.
on Kids Express!
Welcome to 3ABN Kids Express, where we meet kids from around the world and learn what they are doing to spread the love of Jesus. It is through their experiences we can learn fun and new ways to take our hobbies and talents and use them for the glory of God. Today, we are going to discover how we can develop our character by choosing what books we read and how these types of books we read are important in helping us grow to be like Jesus. I'm Aunt Francine.
And I'm Khalil.
I think it's time to figure out where in the world our guest comes from.
I think so too. Well, can you guess where in the world today's guest comes from? And can you guess what state it could be? And if you said Illinois, you are correct. Please welcome Amanda.
Ooh.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, Amanda.
Those look good.
Oh, what did you bring for us?
Chocolate-covered strawberries.
Those look
Did you see
yummy.
that? That looks really
That looks very
scrumptious. Oh, you like
Wow.
making chocolate-covered strawberries?
Yes.
Ooh, I'm thinking strawberries because I like strawberries.
Well, why is Illinois such a special place to live?
Let's see. Well, we have the tallest man in the world, which is 8 foot 11 inches.
Wow.
He was
very
born here?
tall.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That's an
he's
interesting
very
fact.
tall.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
And we have it named after land of Lincoln.
So Abraham Lincoln lived here, and yeah.
That's cool.
And I think he became a legislator, too,
Yes.
for the state of Illinois. Anything else about Illinois?
Let's see. The state snack is a popcorn.
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 Oh, that makes me think of going to Wrigley Fields.
Ooh, yes.
Seeing the Cubs
baseball
game or something like
Yes.
that. Yeah,
My mom used to go there time to time.
you're right. Your mom did used to go there quite often.
That's cool.
That is cool.
I heard that Chicago was like the America's third largest city, I think.
It's a pretty big city.
I know. It's very big.
It is very big. But you know what? There's a lot of interesting things that we can learn about the state of Illinois in every place. But let's get started and talk about Jesus. How we can share Jesus. What is something that you can do, that you do maybe around, that you share a little bit of Jesus?
Well, I adopt a grandparent.
Wow, you adopted a grandparent? I didn't know that was possible.
So how do you go about adopting a grandparent? Like,
Everywhere I've lived, I've always seemed to have a grandparent that I've adopted.
oh really?
Wow.
Do you have any pictures? Let's see the pictures there. So can you tell us who's this?
Ooh.
Who's this in the camera here?
That's my grandparent, one of my grandparents. His name is Carl.
That you've adopted.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
And that's his dog?
Yep, Patches.
Okay, and Patches.
I think that's you reading?
You
Wow.
like to spend a lot of time reading.
That's
But, oh, is that Carl too?
Yep,
Wow. That's nice.
And what are you doing there?
I'm baking something for them.
And what, you're making
that's
some kind of
nice.
what? What is
Dessert.
it? Dessert. Do you know what dessert you're making?
Brownies.
Brownies
Brownies?
is a favorite, yeah.
Oh, is that Ginger?
That's ginger
That's
in the wind.
ginger.
But, so what do you like to, what happened especially with Carl, for example, and Linda? Can you tell us a little bit about why you decided to adopt them? What was happening with Carl?
Well, he got really hurt.
He would
got-
fall,
That's sad.
and he was in a wheelchair for a while, and he was in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terrible.
And so what were you doing? Poor Linda, she was all by herself, and what was happening? What
I
would
used
you
to
do?
go over there and try to make her laugh. Do puzzles with her.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
So you were sharing Jesus. Now, do you know when you adopt a grandparent, for example, there's lots of benefits that we can have. Like it keeps the grandparents' mind sharp, you know, is sometimes just spending time with them, and it wards off depression. So I think you were warding off depression for Linda while Carl was in the hospital, and then when Carl came back, you were doing other things. Like what else were you doing in the yard?
I was picking up sticks. I was walking the dog, which can be way too energetic.
He's
Wow.
very energetic, isn't he? But you know, what are some benefits that you learned from adopting your grandparents? Was there anything that you think you've learned from adopting your grandparent?
I've learned to create a special bond with them.
You do create a special bond, and that is very something and special because also it creates a form of empathy, we say, or a way of showing kindness and feeling the emotions that they feel. That's kind of important too, and that can help us grow. And you know what? I noticed that sometimes every weekend, well, many weekends, you're doing something special. What are you doing over the weekend? Sometimes you're making what?
Desserts.
Desserts, and sometimes crafts.
Oh, yes, lots of crafts.
Lots of crafts, yes. So, in every one of those ways, you were developing something like your character. Don't you think about that? Which brings me, I think we need to talk about our character and developing our character. Are there times that we need to work on our character?
Yes, many.
Perhaps you can find yourself spending too much time on one thing. Amanda, I'm going to ask you to be truthful now. What do you like to do in your free time?
Read.
Read?
And you do a lot of reading? Yeah.
Wow. So, how many books do you read?
45 to 50.
45 to 50 a week? Wow, that's a lot of books. I can't read that many.
You're right. And so how do you know what books to choose? Because, I mean, do you have enough books at home?
No.
So what do you do to
We go
be
to
able
the library.
You go to the library. And so when you go to the library, how do you know what books to pick?
I do the 5-finger test.
Okay, tell me about it.
Well, one of them, if the book is too hard or too easy, I look for the words.
Okay.
And I look in the back and the front for the summary and the title
Okay.
to see if I think I'll like it or if it's inappropriate.
Ooh.
That's a good way.
So that gives you indications. Did you catch that? She looks at the cover, and so if there's something that she thinks is not shining about Jesus, she'll put it away, right? If it's not something that Jesus would want you to read, and put it away. Do you ever find out that you're reading a book and you realize, I need to put it down because it's not appropriate? Do you ever get that?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have a question for her?
Yes, actually, I do. So, let's see. What kind of books do you like to read?
I like missionary stories. I like mysteries from time to time.
That's nice. Mysteries are literally like my favorite. I love mysteries. Like when you get one person that's on this side and the other person on that side, and you get both stories, and then there's one where you figure out who does what. It's really cool.
You're right. So here's another thing. When we ever have to pick a book, for example, you want to know a little bit about the purpose of the book, right? Why the author was writing what they did. And then, like you said, sometimes you said about the interest, whether it's interesting or not. And then, like the 5-finger, you said sometimes if you get to 5 words that are too hard to read too, like if it's 4 to 5, it would be too hard and you put it down, right? So those are good strategies to learn that we can always learn about that. So when you read a book, sometimes do you have to ask yourself, like, what's the purpose? Like when you're reading a book, what goes through your mind when you're reading a book?
Lots.
A lot. Well, give some examples. Like do you like funny books?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. And so tell me a little bit about an example of one of the books that you had to put away that wasn't appropriate.
Well, one of them was about they were robbing people and doing not nice stuff to them.
And saying bad words. Yeah, and so you decided that you needed to put that book. You're right. And sometimes we want to know about whether reading books is yet good. We want to make good decisions, right? And what books are appropriate, because sometimes we get books out of the library and sometimes they aren't so good. So when we read about these books, we want to think about the purpose. Have you ever read a book and thought, what's the purpose of this book?
Right, I have. Sometimes it's sophisticated too as well. Like very hard to think about the purpose of a book.
Yeah, and what else? We talk about the characters. What about the characters? What do you think about those characters? Is that an influence of what books we should choose? Yeah, like you said, sometimes they were saying inappropriate things. And we can also talk about whether the book is encouraging. Does it tell you something that's important to learn? You're right. And sometimes I've noticed one thing that you've done, Amanda, is that when it's something that doesn't seem quite right, sometimes we might read it together or you might share a part of it. And that's another good strategy, right? Do you ever have questions about a book and then you realize, we need to think about that a little bit more?
Yes, sometimes.
Yeah. Have you read any books that are challenging?
Yeah, once or twice.
Yeah, and was it from the library?
Yeah, it was from the library.
And sometimes you can't find these right books. But you know what? That reminds me of a text. Let's look at Philippians 4, verse 8. Can you get that ready for us, Khalil?
Yeah, sure. You said Philippians
4, 8.
8. Let's see if
So,
I can
Amanda, I appreciate you thanking you. I wanted to thank you for sharing how you look at books, because I know sometimes are you reading when you shouldn't be reading? Like, how do you juggle, like, sometimes when you're supposed to do something else, like help with chores around the house, and what sometimes are you doing?
Reading.
Reading. So God wants us to use our time wisely, right?
Right.
And use those habits of developing our character. So even though you're reading a lot, and that's a good thing, we have to also think about what?
Balance.
Balancing it out. Because
read too much.
every once in a while, she's under the covers. You want to tell?
Maybe want to tie some under the covers with a flashlight.
But that's a good habit to do. Yes, she likes to read. But let's read Philippians 4:8. Do you have it for us?
Yes, I do. It says, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatever things are noble, whatever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatever things are of good report, if there is any virtue, or if there is any praiseworthy, meditate on these things."
Yeah, and that's what we want to do. Do we have a little bit of time for your questions? Let's go to our questions now. Do you have that question for us?
Yes, I do. So this question for Amanda is from Candace, who lives in Ohio. She asks, what is your favorite animal?
My favorite animal is penguins.
And why is that?
Well, it happened when we went to
SeaWorld?
SeaWorld, yeah. And so we went to go visit the penguin, of course, first. And so we had some penguins jump out.
How many?
3.
3? 3 penguins.
Yes.
Out the cage?
Yes.
I meant the tank.
Yes.
Jump out the tank. So like they...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like on the...
Yes, on the floor.
And...
What did the ranger say?
Yeah.
Don't touch them. They may be dangerous. Ah!
Like they screamed all that?
Yeah.
Like that never happened before at SeaWorld?
No,
That's
never.
the first time ever?
Yes.
That is crazy.
I'm fortunate that I got to be with you since I'm your mommy. And that was a wonderful time because she loved penguins before that, but she really loves penguins now. I'm so glad that God made such amazing animals we can learn so much from. Aren't you glad that we can enjoy many things in nature or perhaps read about them in a book? Just take time to discover more about our Creator through these living things around us. God has created you to be a blessing for others. Are there people in your neighborhood or in church that you would be willing to adopt or cheer up? Can you think of some?
Yes.
Oh, let's live for Jesus. Are you ready for these chocolate-covered cherry and strawberries?
One, please.
Oh, let's go.